In a forgotten corner of the earth, nestled deep within the great Rift Valley of Tanzania, time does not march forward, it simply breathes. Here, under the vast, indifferent gaze of the African sky, a people live as they have for millennia, their existence a quiet rebellion against the relentless pace of the modern world. They are the Hadza, a name whispered on the wind, a living echo from the dawn of humanity. Their world is not one of concrete and steel, but of baobab trees and rust-colored earth. They walk paths not carved by machines, but worn smooth by the bare feet of countless generations, each footstep a silent testament to an unbroken lineage stretching back into the mists of prehistory. Their story is not written in books or etched into monuments of stone. It is carried in the rhythm of their daily hunt, in the flicker of their nightly fires, and in the unique clicking sounds of their language, Hadza, a tongue that seems to borrow its cadence from the rustle of leaves and the crackle of flame. To observe them is to peer through a window into our own distant past, to witness a way of life that has remained fundamentally unchanged for, well, an estimated 50,000 years. While great empires have risen from dust and returned to it, the Hadza have endured, holding fast to the ancient knowledge of survival that is their most sacred inheritance. They do not sow seeds or herd cattle. The land is their only provider, a wild and unpredictable garden that offers its bounty only to those who understand its secrets. Their tools are elemental and few: a handcrafted bow, arrows fletched with bird feathers, and a simple digging stick. These are not mere objects, but extensions of their will, instruments of a profound and intimate relationship with their environment. Their lives are a continuous dance of instinct and adaptation, a testament to a form of human resilience that the developed world has long forgotten. How have they managed to keep this ancient flame alive, shielded from the winds of change? This is not a tale of primitive struggle, but one of sophisticated harmony. It is a chronicle of a people who possess a wealth that cannot be measured in currency, a wisdom that is not taught in schools, and a freedom that is unknown to those bound by clocks and calendars. Their existence poses a silent, profound question to the rest of the world. In our relentless pursuit of progress, what essential truths about ourselves have we left behind? We journey now into their world, not as observers of a relic, but as students of a living, breathing testament to what it means to be human. The legacy of the Hadza is not one of conquest or dominion, but of quiet persistence. Imagine a world without calendars, where the passing of seasons is marked not by dates, but by the flowering of the baobab tree or the migratory patterns of game. This is the reality of their existence. Generations are not counted in years, but are measured by the memories of great hunts, severe droughts, or seasons of extraordinary honey. The young do not celebrate birthdays, and the old do not tally their age. Life is a fluid, continuous stream, a present moment that stretches from the first light of dawn to the deep, star-filled darkness of the African night. Their bows are not simply tools for hunting, they are heirlooms, crafted with meticulous care from the wood of the gruya tree, each one a repository of stories and unspoken knowledge passed from father to son. Their arrows are deadly poems of survival, their shafts straightened by hand and their tips coated in a potent poison meticulously extracted from the desert rose plant. This is not an art of violence, but a necessary ritual, a sacred contract between the hunter and the hunted. Each arrow released is a prayer sent into the wilderness, a question asked of the land. Will you provide for us today? They move through the bush with a grace and silence that is almost supernatural, their senses tuned to the faintest signs of life. They can spot a beehive hidden high in the hollow of a baobab from 100 paces, or track a small dik-dik through dense scrub where others would see nothing but a wall of thorns. Their survival depends not on force, but on an encyclopedic knowledge of their environment, an intimate understanding of animal behavior, plant properties, and the subtle language of the landscape itself. They are not separate from their world. They are an integral part of its intricate living web. This is the essence of their unchanged world, a society held together not by laws and leaders, but by kinship, cooperation, and a shared instinctual understanding of their place in the natural order. They drink water collected from sandy riverbeds and find their nourishment in the chase of baboons, the patient foraging for tubers, and the sweet, golden reward of wild honey. Their story challenges our very definition of wealth and progress, inviting us to reconsider the foundations upon which our own civilizations are built. What secrets are held within this ancient way of life, and what can it teach us about our own forgotten origins? For over 50,000 years, the Hadza have called the land surrounding Lake Eyasi their home. This is not a home in the sense of walls and roofs, but a vast living territory of acacia woodland and sun-baked savanna in northern Tanzania. The shallow, alkaline lake itself is a shimmering, seasonal heart, expanding and contracting with the rains, its shores a silent witness to the endless cycle of life and death. This is the cradle where the Hadza's story began. An ancestral landscape that has shaped their bodies, their beliefs, and their very souls. They do not claim to own this land, rather they belong to it, moving across its face like the shifting shadows of the clouds above. Their connection to this place is absolute, a bond forged not through deeds and titles, but through an unbroken chain of memory and experience. They know every rock, every gully, every ancient baobab tree that dots the horizon. These landmarks are not just points on a map, they are chapters in a story that has no beginning and no end. An elder can point to a specific outcrop of granite and recount a story of a successful kudu hunt from his grandfather's time, a tale passed down not in writing but through the living word around a crackling fire. This land is their library, their sanctuary, and their provider, a sacred inheritance entrusted to each new generation. They have never built permanent villages or fortifications. Their camps are ephemeral, composed of simple, dome-shaped huts woven from grass and flexible branches designed to be abandoned without a trace when the game moves on or the water sources dry up. This nomadic rhythm is not one of hardship, but of freedom, a deliberate choice to live in harmony with the ebb and flow of nature. They leave no scars upon the land, their presence as light and transient as a morning mist. In a world obsessed with permanence and possession, the Hadza demonstrate a profound truth. True belonging comes not from ownership, but from respect and deep, intimate knowledge. This ancient valley has protected them, its relative isolation, shielding them from the conquests and contagions that have reshaped the rest of the world. While empires built walls to keep others out, the Hadza found their security in mobility and invisibility, their lack of permanent structures making them an elusive target for would-be conquerors. They remained hidden in plain sight, a people content with the wealth of the wilderness, their existence a quiet, powerful testament to the idea that the greatest strength can be found in simplicity and a deep, abiding connection to one's origins. Their story is etched into the very soil of this timeless land. The Hadza people speak a language unlike any other on Earth. It's a language that sounds like it came straight from nature itself. It's called Hadzain, and it's full of clicks, pops, and whispers. It's a rich mix of sounds, and many believe it's one of the oldest and most unique languages still around today. It's a language isolate, which means it doesn't share roots with any other known language, not even other languages that use clicks in southern Africa. When you hear it spoken, it's like listening to an echo from the very beginning of human thought. It's a way of speaking that's much, much older than writing. The clicks you hear in their speech aren't just for show. They're actual parts of words, just as important as any letter in our alphabet. There are clicks made with the tip of the tongue against the teeth, clicks made with the side of the tongue against the back teeth, and sharp, popping clicks that come from the roof of the mouth. These sounds are like the snap of a twig, the call of a bird, or the crackle of a fire. They weave the sounds of their world right into how they talk. It's a perfect language for hunting because it lets them talk in a quiet, detailed way without scaring animals. The words in Hadza show a way of looking at the world that's completely focused on surviving in the wild. They have many different words for honey, specific names for young bees at different stages, and exact terms for how different edible roots and berries feel and taste. But in other ways, the language is quite simple. They don't have words for days of the week or months of the year, and their counting system traditionally only went up to 1 and 2. Anything more than that was just called many. This doesn't mean they're not smart, it just shows that their culture cares more about what's needed for survival than about abstract ideas. Losing this language would be more than just losing a bunch of words. It would be like cutting off one of the last living connections to where human speech first began. Hadza, with its special sounds, holds a kind of knowledge, a way of hearing and understanding the world that has been refined over countless generations. It's a language born not from wind and fire, as stories might suggest, but from the detailed, everyday dance of survival in the African savannah. It's the sound of a people who have never stopped listening to the earth. Their voice is a living whisper from our shared ancient past. For a Hadza man, the bow is not a weapon, it is an extension of his being, a third arm that is his constant companion from boyhood until his final days. The creation of a bow is a patient, almost spiritual process. The wood, typically from a gruya tree, is carefully selected for its strength and flexibility, then painstakingly shaped and seasoned over many days. The bowstring is made from the sinew of a large animal, often a giraffe or a wildebeest, its fibers twisted together with practiced skill to create a cord of incredible tensile strength. Holding one of these bows, you feel not the weight of wood and sinew, but the weight of accumulated wisdom. The arrows are even more intricate creations, each one a masterpiece of deadly efficiency. The shafts are fashioned from lightweight wood, straightened meticulously over the heat of a fire, and fletched with the feathers of birds like the guinea fowl, ensuring a stable, true flight. The tips, however, are what transform the arrow into a vessel of silent death. They are not made of stone or metal, but of wood, bone or hammered iron, acquired through trade, and each is coated in a potent poison. This poison is the tribe's most guarded secret, a black tar-like substance carefully boiled down from the branches of the desert rose shrub. This poison is a neurotoxin so powerful that it can bring down an animal as large as a zebra or a giraffe within minutes. The preparation is a dangerous ritual performed with immense care, as the fumes alone can be harmful. The hunter must know exactly how much poison to apply and how to handle the arrow without endangering himself. This knowledge is not learned from a book, it is absorbed through years of observation passed down from elder to child in the quiet moments between hunts. The use of poison allows them to hunt large game with relatively small bows, a testament to their intelligence and profound understanding of biochemistry. The hunt itself is a silent ballet of instinct and strategy. It is not a display of brute force, but a contest of wits and patience. The hunter moves through the bush with an economy of motion, his senses alive to every sound, every scent, every disturbed leaf. He is not just looking for an animal, he is reading a story written on the landscape, the story of tracks, droppings, and broken branches. The hunt is a covenant, an ancient agreement between man and nature. It is a ritual that affirms the Hadza's place in the world, a daily act of faith that the land will provide, so long as they approach it with skill, respect, and humility. If the hunt defines the Hadza man, then honey defines their collective joy. For the Hadza, honey is more than just a source of calories. It is the most coveted and celebrated food in their diet, a taste of pure, golden sweetness in a life of savory subsistence. They are arguably the most skilled honey hunters in the world, possessing an almost mystical ability to locate the hives of wild bees hidden high in the hollows of ancient baobab trees. This quest for honey is a central drama of their daily lives, a pursuit filled with risk, skill, and the promise of a sublime reward. It is their gold, their wine, and their candy, all in one. The search for honey often involves a remarkable partnership with a small, unassuming bird known as the honey guide. This bird, upon finding a beehive, will actively seek out a human and lead them to the location with a specific, chattering call. The Hadza have learned to understand this call and will follow the bird for miles through the bush, communicating back with specific whistles. Once the hive is located, the real work begins. The hunter will build a smoky fire at the base of the tree to pacify the bees, then ascend the trunk using pounded wooden pegs as handholds to chop into the hive with a small axe. After the perilous climb and the fury of the bees, the reward is immense. The hunter retrieves large, heavy combs dripping with rich, dark honey and filled with nutritious bee larvae. A portion of the honeycomb is always left behind as a thank you to their avian guide, a gesture that reinforces this unique interspecies collaboration. Back at camp, the arrival of honey is cause for celebration. It is eaten with abandon, the sweet, sticky liquid running down chins and arms, a moment of pure, unadulterated pleasure shared by everyone, from the youngest child to the oldest elder. It is in these moments that the true wealth of the Hadza is most apparent. And then there is fire. Fire is the heart of the Hadza camp, the center of their social world. It is not summoned with a match or a lighter, but is born from the patient friction of wood and will. Using a hand drill, a hard stick spun rapidly against a softer piece of wood, a man can coax a glowing ember into existence in under a minute. This ember is carefully nurtured in a nest of dry grass until it bursts into flame. This fire provides warmth against the cold desert night, protection from predators, a means to cook meat, and a source of light around which stories are told. And the bonds of community are forged anew each evening. The social structure of the Hadza is as simple and elegant as their tools. They live in a world without chiefs, elders, or formal councils. There is no hierarchy, no one person who holds authority over another. They are one of the last true egalitarian societies on the planet, a community governed not by written laws but by an unspoken code of cooperation and mutual obligation. Decisions are made through informal consensus, with every individual having an equal voice. If a disagreement becomes too great to resolve, the parties simply part ways, one group moving to a different part of their territory. Their social fabric is flexible, resilient, and fundamentally democratic. This equality extends to possessions. The concept of private ownership as the modern world understands it barely exists. While a man may have his personal bow and arrows, the most important resources, land, water, and food, are shared by all. When a hunter brings a large animal back to camp, the meat is meticulously divided and distributed among every member of the group, ensuring that no one goes hungry. This practice, known as demand sharing, is not an act of charity, but a fundamental rule of survival. It fosters a powerful sense of interdependence and ensures the well-being of the entire community over the success of any single individual. Generations are marked not by years but by shared experience. Children are raised by the entire community, learning not through formal instruction but through observation and direct participation. A young boy learns to track and hunt by following the men, given his own small bow at an early age. A young girl learns to forage for tubers and berries by accompanying the women on their daily gathering trips. There are no schools, no textbooks, only the living curriculum of the bush itself. Knowledge is a fluid, practical thing, passed seamlessly from one generation to the next, through action and imitation. Their world is one without walls, both literally and figuratively. Their camps are open, their social structures are fluid, and their minds seem unburdened by the anxieties of accumulation and status that define so much of modern life. They do not hoard food, for they have faith the land will provide again tomorrow. They do not collect material wealth, for their mobility is their greatest asset. They live in a state of radical immediacy, their lives focused on the present moment, on the needs of today. It is a society built on a foundation of trust in each other, and an unshakable trust in the wild world that is their home. For millennia, the Hadza lived within a world that felt boundless, their territories stretching as far as a person could walk in a season. The horizon was their only fence, the rhythm of the rains their only clock. But this world is shrinking. The silence of the savannah is now broken by unfamiliar sounds, the distant roar of a truck engine, the lowing of cattle, the sharp percussive ring of an axe against a tree. The outside world, once a distant rumour, is now pressing in from all sides, its presence felt not in dramatic confrontations, but in a slow, creeping erosion of the Hadza's ancestral domain. The circle that once defined their universe is closing in, threatening to suffocate the ancient way of life it has protected for so long. This pressure does not come from conquering armies with swords and shields, but from forces far more insidious and difficult to fight. Agriculture, pastoralism, and conservation policies. Neighboring tribes, driven by their own population growth and economic needs, clear the bush to plant crops of maize and millet. Herders drive their vast herds of cattle and goats across Hadza lands, the animals grazing voraciously on the wild plants that both the Hadza and their game depend on. The very land that has sustained the hunters for 50,000 years is being transformed, its wildness tamed, and its bounty diminished with each passing season. The consequences of this encroachment are stark and immediate. The baobab trees, central to Hadza life for both honey and spirituality, are cut down to make way for farms. Water sources that were once pristine are now fouled by livestock, making them undrinkable. The wild animals, the giraffe, the zebra, the impala, are retreating, their migratory routes disrupted and their populations dwindling as their habitat disappears. Every lost acre of land is a lost pantry, a lost pharmacy, and a lost chapter of their living history, pushing the Hadza into smaller and more marginal territories where survival becomes a more difficult question each day. This encroachment brings with it a cultural clash, a collision of two vastly different ways of seeing the world. To the farmers, the land is an idle resource, waiting to be made productive through cultivation. To the herders, it is grazing pasture, a commodity to be utilized for their livestock. To the Hadza, this same land is a sacred provider, a living entity to be respected, not owned or altered. They watch as the world changes around them, a silent, bewildered audience to a form of progress that feels more like a profound and irreversible loss. The Eden they have known is slowly being paved over. The most visible wounds on the Hadza landscape are the roads, not highways of asphalt, but rough dirt tracks carved into the earth by the wheels of safari vehicles and the trucks of land developers. These tracks are more than just paths. They are scars that bleed dust into the air and fundamentally alter the ecosystem. They cut through ancient game trails, creating barriers that confuse and deter wildlife. They bring outsiders deeper into Hadza territory, shattering the isolation that has been their shield for so long. Each new road is a vein carrying the modern world into the heart of the ancient one, and the exchange is rarely in the Hadza's favor. With the roads come the axes. The sound of a tree falling is a sound of mourning for the Hadza. They have lived among these trees for their entire history, understanding their individual characters and uses. One tree provides the perfect wood for a bow, Another shelters a beehive, and a third offers edible fruit in the dry season. But to outsiders, these same trees are often seen merely as timber or charcoal. The systematic clearing of woodland for agriculture and fuel destroys the complex web of life that the Hadza depend on. The animals flee not just from the noise and activity, but because their sources of food and shelter are literally being chopped down around them. In the span of just 2 generations, the Hadza have seen their world shrink with devastating speed. It is estimated that in the last 50 years alone, they have lost access to as much as 90% of their ancestral lands. This is not just a loss of territory, it is a loss of identity. Their culture is inextricably woven into this specific landscape. When a particular patch of forest is cleared, they don't just lose the resources it provided. They lose the stories, memories, and spiritual connections associated with that place. It is a form of cultural amnesia inflicted upon them from the outside. This relentless pressure forces the Hadza into an impossible choice. Some attempt to retreat further into the remaining fragments of bush, seeking a refuge that shrinks with each passing year. Others are drawn to the fringes of villages, trading their independence for the promise of food or money, a transaction that often leads to poverty and disease. They are caught between 2 worlds, fully belonging to neither. The progress that carves scars into the earth also carves deep, invisible wounds into the soul of their people, questioning the very foundation of their existence.
1, 2, 3.
As their land vanishes, a strange paradox emerges, a debate that rages not in Hadza camps, but in the minds of the outsiders observing them. Who in this unfolding drama is truly the more advanced? The Hadza who can drink from a muddy waterhole without fear of sickness, their gut microbiomes a complex, resilient ecosystem honed over millennia, or the modern human who requires purified, bottled water to stay healthy? The Hadza possess an immune system and an internal flora that scientists are only now beginning to understand, a biological inheritance that represents a pinnacle of human adaptation to a natural environment. This paradox extends to their economy and their intellect. The Hadza trade in honey, not money. Their wealth is measured in social bonds and the sweetness of a honeycomb, not in numbers in a bank account. They famously have few words for numbers, yet they can count everything that matters for their survival. The number of arrows in their quiver, the ripeness of a berry, the days until the rains will come. Some see this as a primitive limitation, others see it as a form of sophisticated focus, a cognitive framework that filters out the abstract anxieties of the modern world and concentrates only on the tangible, immediate realities of life. Some anthropologists and documentarians claim that the Hadza way of life is vanishing, that what we see today is a diluted version, a culture already tainted by the pressures of the outside world. They point to the use of metal arrowheads acquired through trade or the wearing of donated t-shirts as evidence that their purity is a myth. They argue that to romanticize them as a people untouched by time is to ignore the harsh realities of their current struggle. From this perspective, the Hadza are a tragic relic, their culture a fading ember that we can only hope to record before it is extinguished completely. Yet others see something entirely different. They believe the Hadza represent the last pure thread of a fundamental human truth. They argue that the core of their culture, their egalitarianism, their relationship with nature, their language, their hunting techniques remains powerfully intact despite the external pressures. In this view, the Hadza are not vanishing, they are resisting. They are a living testament to a different and perhaps more sustainable way of being human. They are not a relic of the past, but a mirror reflecting the profound costs of our own civilization's choices, a vital part of the Hadza Tribe's story, unchanged for 50,000 years. The pressures on the Hadza are not just territorial, they are linguistic. A language like Hadzane, which holds the echoes of humanity's dawn, is dangerously fragile. It has no written form, its entire existence dependent on an unbroken chain of oral transmission from one generation to the next. As the modern world encroaches, so too does its language. Swahili, the national language of Tanzania, is becoming increasingly prevalent, especially among younger Hadza who have more contact with outsiders. It is the language of trade, of government, and of opportunity, and its pull is powerful and relentless. With each young Hadza who becomes more fluent in Swahili than in the click-filled cadence of their ancestors, a universe of knowledge is threatened. The precise words that describe the medicinal properties of a specific root, the subtle term that differentiates the track of a pregnant eland from a young male, the name for the specific honey produced by bees in a baobab hollow, these are not just words. They are containers of essential survival information, refined over thousands of years. When a word is forgotten, the knowledge it contains often disappears with it, leaving a permanent void in their cultural encyclopedia. This linguistic erosion raises a profound question. Why is a culture like this not revered in our history books? Why are the stories and philosophies of the Hadza not studied with the same intensity as those of ancient Greece or Rome? Their history is humanity's history, their language a key to our own cognitive origins. Yet, it is often dismissed as a primitive dialect, its speakers relegated to a footnote in the grand narrative of human civilization. The voice of Hadzane, which carries the acoustic signature of our deep past, is not taught in universities, a silent testament to our cultural biases. The debate over their future is also a debate over the preservation of this linguistic heritage. Some argue for assimilation, believing that learning Swahili and integrating into the wider Tanzanian society is the only viable path to survival for the Hadza people. Others fight desperately to document and revitalize Hadzane, creating dictionaries and recording elders before their unique knowledge is lost forever. They argue that to allow this language to die would be an act of irreversible cultural destruction, akin to burning down a library that contains the very first book ever written. The dust of the savannah holds these fading echoes, waiting to be heard or to be silenced forever. The Hadza's future is fiercely debated. Are they a living relic to be preserved, or should they be integrated into modern society? Some want to keep them isolated, turning their lives into a museum exhibit. Others push for development, risking cultural loss and dependence. The Hadza themselves are rarely heard in these debates. Their wishes are as diverse as their people. Some want tradition, others seek change. Ultimately, this debate reflects our own values and anxieties about progress and sustainability. Are the Hadza a revelation of what we've lost, or an anachronism in a changing world? Their struggle is a test of our conscience and a mirror for our civilization. Filming the Hadza is like trying to catch a whisper. At first, our presence disrupted their world, but as we faded into the background, the camera became a silent observer, capturing the unspoken language of glances, gestures, and ancient knowledge. The real story unfolded in quiet moments, a hunter's look, a woman's touch, the subtle signs of the land. The camera learned to see abundance where outsiders saw scarcity, revealing a world rich with meaning. Each frame became a lesson in survival, connection, and the hidden grammar of Hadza life. In silence, the camera revealed a reality deeper than words. One night, we followed a Hadza hunter into the darkness, guided only by his senses. He hunted a bush baby, its eyes reflecting the wild's mystery. The hunt was swift, silent, and necessary. The animal's life meant food for his family. There was no triumph, only acceptance of nature's cycle. The camera captured not just a hunt, but the raw truth of survival. Food comes with a heartbeat, not from a store. For the Hadza, every meal is a direct, intimate transaction with the land. In the bush baby's eyes, we saw the price of life. Hadza children learn in the wild, not in classrooms. We watched an elder guide a young boy to a baobab tree where the boy climbed to harvest honey, following the honey guide bird. The lesson was hands-on: courage, skill and trust, all learned by doing. The boy faced bees and heights, earning his reward through risk and effort. This is education, not memorization, but experience. The elder's role was to watch and trust, passing on knowledge through opportunity. With honey shared, the boy took his place in the chain of Hadza hunters. For the Hadza, hunting is a moving prayer, a question to the land: will you provide? We followed hunters tracking impala, their senses attuned to every sign. The hunt is a silent conversation, a collective effort, and a test of patience and skill. Success or failure, the ritual remains: faith in the land, sharing the bounty, reaffirming community. The hunt is not about the kill, but about seeking, striving, and sharing. It is the rhythm that gives their life meaning. Every meal is an answer: we are still here. We hope to film a baboon hunt, the most challenging of all. The hunters tracked for hours, but the baboon never appeared. There was no frustration, just rest, laughter, and quiet resilience. The day was not wasted. They repaired tools, shared stories, and learned from the land. The Hadza endure not through constant success, but through patience and adaptation. Their spirit is defined by acceptance and faith that tomorrow brings another chance. In the silence, we saw why they have survived for 50,000 years. To live as the Hadza live is to understand a different form of wealth, one that cannot be hoarded in vaults or traded on stock exchanges. Their currency is not gold or paper, but the simple, profound act of breathing. Each breath is a moment of pure existence, a confirmation of life in the here and now. They do not fear death in the way that settled societies do, with anxieties about legacies, wills, and unfinished business. Death is not an enemy to be fought, but a natural transition as certain and as cyclical as the setting of the sun. It is the final exhalation, a return of their borrowed energy to the earth that sustained them throughout their lives. This acceptance gives their existence a powerful, uncluttered focus. Their relationship with mortality is shaped by the immediacy of their world. When life depends on the success of the daily hunt or the discovery of a hidden water source, there is little room for abstract fears about the future. Death is a tangible presence seen in the cycle of predator and prey, in the wilting of plants during a drought, and in the quiet passing of an elder in the camp. Because they face it so directly, it loses much of its terror. They do not see life as a long, linear progression towards an inevitable end, but as a series of present moments, each one to be lived fully and without reservation, a continuous now. This perspective strips away the layers of anxiety that plague the modern world. Without the pressure to accumulate possessions, status, or achievements to leave behind, they are free to invest their entire being into the act of living itself. Their legacy is not in what they build, but in the knowledge they pass on, in the survival of their community, and in the continuation of their ancient lineage. They do not seek to conquer nature or to defy their own mortality. They seek only to live in harmony with it, to be a seamless part of its grand, unending rhythm until their time is done. This detachment from the fear of death is not a sign of resignation, but of profound wisdom. It allows them to take the risks necessary for survival, to climb towering baobab trees for honey, to hunt formidable animals with poison-tipped arrows, and to navigate a world filled with predators. They do not fear the end because they are so deeply immersed in the process of living. Their wealth is the warmth of the morning sun, the taste of fresh honey, the shared laughter around a fire, and the steady, reassuring rhythm of their own heartbeats. Each breath is a coin spent on the priceless experience of being alive. Imagine a life unbound by the tyranny of the clock. The Hadza world has no calendars, no birthdays, no anniversaries to mark the relentless passage of time. The sun's arc across the sky is their only timepiece, its rising and setting the only appointments they are required to keep. The seasons are not defined by months, but by the scent of the soil after the first rain, the flowering of specific plants, or the arrival of migratory birds. This freedom from the abstract grid of time allows for a deeper, more sensory engagement with the present. They do not dream of a distant future because their entire consciousness is anchored in the vibrant reality of now. This lack of future-oriented thinking is often misinterpreted by outsiders as a lack of ambition or foresight. In reality, it is a highly adaptive strategy for their environment. In a world where the availability of food and water can change from one day to the next, long-term planning is a futile exercise. Their foresight is of a different kind. It is the ability to read the immediate signs of nature, to anticipate the movement of game, and to know where to find water in the coming dry spell. Their planning horizon is shaped by the tangible needs of the day, not the imagined desires of a year from now. This focus on the present moment fosters a remarkable lack of regret. They do not dwell on past failures or missed opportunities. A hunt that ends in failure is not a source of lingering disappointment. It is simply a fact of the day, to be forgotten as soon as the sun sets. The next morning brings a new hunt, a new set of possibilities, a clean slate. This mental resilience is perhaps one of their most significant survival tools, allowing them to face the constant challenges of their existence with a calm spirit and an unburdened mind, free from the weight of yesterday's ghosts. Life without a calendar is a life of continuous flow. There is no dread of Mondays, no anticipation of weekends, no counting down the years until retirement. Each day is simply a day, a self-contained unit of existence filled with its own challenges and rewards. This worldview, stripped of the artificial timelines we impose on ourselves, offers a glimpse into a different state of being, one of radical presence. The Hadza do not live for tomorrow because for them life is not a destination to be reached, but a journey that is happening in every single precious moment. For the Hadza, the earth is not a resource to be exploited, it is a living, breathing entity that holds them. When they sleep, they do not lie on elevated beds inside fortified houses. They lie directly upon the ground, separated only by a thin animal skin or a bed of grass. This simple act creates a profound physical connection to the planet. They feel its coolness during the night and its warmth at dawn. They are held by the earth, cradled by it. This constant, intimate contact fosters a relationship not of dominion but of kinship. The ground beneath them is not just dirt, it is the floor of their home, the source of their sustenance, the literal foundation of their being. This connection informs their every action. When they dig for tubers, they do so with a gentle respect, taking only what they need and leaving the rest for others, be it other people or other animals. When they hunt, they use every part of the animal, its skin for clothing, its sinew for bowstrings, its bones for tools. Waste is an alien concept in a world where everything is seen as a gift from the earth. This is not an ideology born from a modern environmental movement. It is an ancient instinctual understanding that their survival is inextricably linked to the health and vitality of the world around them. When a Hadza person wakes, the chase begins anew. The first light of dawn is a call to action, a signal to re-engage with the world. They rise from the earth and immediately begin scanning it for signs, for opportunities, for the subtle clues that will lead them to food and water. Their day is a continuous dialogue with the land, a conversation spoken in the language of tracks, scents and sounds. They do not see themselves as separate from nature, but as a thread woven into its complex tapestry. Their consciousness is an extension of the landscape itself, their thoughts shaped by the seasons and their bodies fueled directly by its bounty. This perception of the earth as a cradle provides a deep sense of security, one that is not dependent on walls or weapons. Their safety comes from their knowledge and their connection. They know that as long as they respect the land and understand its ways, it will provide for them. This is a form of faith far older than any organized religion, a deep cellular trust in the generosity of the natural world. They are the earth's children, and in its embrace they have found a way to endure, held and sustained by the very ground they walk upon. The Hadza are not a memory from a distant past, they are a living mirror, and the reflection they show us can be unsettling. In their simplicity we see our own complexity. In their contentment we see our own restless ambition. In their profound connection to the earth, we are forced to confront our own profound disconnection. Observing their lives is not a simple act of anthropological curiosity, it is an invitation to a deep and often uncomfortable self-examination. Their existence holds up a mirror to our modern souls, asking us to account for the choices our civilization has made and the things we have sacrificed in the name of progress. What does it mean to be wealthy? The Hadza, with their lack of material possessions, challenge our most fundamental definitions of prosperity. They possess a richness of leisure time, a depth of social connection, and a freedom from material anxiety that many in the developed world can only dream of. Their lives suggest that true wealth might not be about accumulation, but about sufficiency, about knowing what is essential and letting go of the rest. They are a stark reminder that a high standard of living and a high quality of life are not necessarily the same thing, and that we may have gained the former at the expense of the latter. Their society, free from hierarchy and built on a foundation of radical equality and cooperation, serves as a powerful critique of our own social structures. In a world increasingly defined by inequality, competition and individualism, the Hadza model of demand sharing and collective responsibility feels both ancient and revolutionary. They remind us that for most of human history, we survived not by dominating one another, but by relying on one another. They are a living testament to the cooperative instincts that lie deep within our own DNA, instincts we have largely suppressed but not entirely extinguished. Ultimately, the mirror they hold up is also a warning. Their struggle for survival against the encroachment of the modern world is a microcosm of the larger struggle between humanity and the natural world. The forces that threaten their existence, deforestation, habitat loss, the depletion of resources, are the same forces that threaten the stability of our entire planet. The Hadza are on the front lines, a canary in the global coal mine. Their fate is a bellwether for our own. In their resilience we can find inspiration, but in their vulnerability we must see a reflection of our own precarious position. If a way of life as ancient and as successful as the Hadzas were to disappear from the face of the earth, what else would we forget? We would forget more than just a unique language or a set of hunting skills. We would forget a fundamental way of being human. We would lose a living library of ecological knowledge, a repository of information about plants, animals and ecosystems that has been gathered and refined over 500 centuries. This is not trivial data. It is a sophisticated system of survival science, a human blueprint for living sustainably within a specific environment. Knowledge that may be desperately needed in a future of climate instability. We would also forget a different way of structuring society. The Hadza offer a proven model of egalitarianism, a community that functions without leaders, laws, or coercion. The loss of this example would impoverish our political and social imagination, making it harder to envision alternatives to the hierarchical and competitive systems that dominate our world. We would forget that it is possible for humans to live in large groups with minimal conflict, sharing resources freely and prioritizing the well-being of the community over the ambitions of the individual. This is a lesson in social technology that is arguably as valuable as any technological invention. Most profoundly, we would forget what it feels like to be truly and completely a part of the natural world. Our species evolved for millennia in environments like the ones the Hadza still inhabit. Our senses, our bodies, and our minds were shaped by the demands of a life lived in intimate contact with nature. As we enclose ourselves further in artificial environments, we risk forgetting these deep, instinctual parts of ourselves. The Hadza are a reminder of our own wild origins, a link to the sensory world we were designed for, a world of subtle sounds, complex smells, and the constant, reassuring presence of the living earth. If the Hadza are the last of our first ancestors, then what does that make us? It makes us their descendants, the inheritors of a legacy we have largely abandoned. Their continued existence is not a matter of preserving a relic. It is a matter of keeping a vital part of our own human story alive. They are not a separate, primitive other. They are us, stripped of our modern distractions. To let their world fade away is to tear out the first and perhaps most important chapter of our own autobiography, leaving us with a diminished understanding of who we are and what we have the potential to be. As the final embers of a Hadza campfire fade into the dark, we are left with a profound sense of wonder and, honestly, a tinge of sorrow. The Hadza's world is breathtaking in its simplicity and strength, yet it flickers on the edge of extinction. Their songs, their stories, and the gentle language of their daily lives have survived every test nature or time could devise. But now the challenge is different and far more perilous. The threat is not drought, nor predator, nor famine, but the slow, silent touch of progress, roads, fences, and the draining of meaning from their ancient land. To witness the Hadza is to witness a living miracle, a daily act of resilience that connects us directly to the first breath of humanity. Their firelight is the same fire that once illuminated the faces of our distant ancestors. Yet, like the last rays of dusk, this light is fragile. If this way of life vanishes, it does not do so in a blaze, but in a gradual dimming, each word of Hadza forgotten, each hunting trail reclaimed by bush, each child drawn away by the distant promise of modernity. This fragility is what makes the Hadza world so precious. Their existence is a rare and delicate thread connecting the present to the most ancient past. In the modern rush to conquer and catalogue, we risk losing the very thing that reminds us of where we began. It is easy, surrounded by concrete and glass, to forget that once all humans lived by the arc of the sun and the scent of rain on dry earth. The Hadza hold this memory, not in museums, but in the living, breathing continuity of their days. Their persistence is a silent defiance, a last light flickering bravely against the encroaching dark. And so, to contemplate their future is to contemplate our own. Their fragility is a mirror. For the planet's fragility, their endurance a question posed to us all. What do we choose to protect when the last lights begin to fade? If we let the Hadza's world slip quietly away, we risk forgetting the wonder and humility that comes from knowing we are part of something much older, much larger than ourselves. The Hadza are not just a people, they are a living message from a lost age, a warning inscribed in flesh and breath. Their 50,000-year story is a testament to the durability of the human spirit, but also a reminder of how quickly such stories can vanish. Ancient civilizations do not always disappear in cataclysm or war. Sometimes they simply dissolve, erased not by sword or fire, but by the slow pressure of forgetting, of neglect, and the relentless push of progress. The Hadza's fate is entwined with the fate of countless other hidden civilizations, their wisdom now more relevant than ever. In the shadow of the modern world, the Hadza's resilience is both inspiration and admonition. Their society asks us to rethink what it means to be advanced. Is it the accumulation of things or the mastery of survival with little? Is it the ability to bend nature to our will or the wisdom to live within its rhythms? The Hadza's answer is written in every gesture, every meal, every story told around the fire. They thrive not by dominating the earth, but by listening to it. Their way of life is not a relic, but an alternative, one we may need to remember as our own world grows more uncertain. But there are darker lessons here too. The slow disappearance of the Hadza is a warning that even the most enduring cultures can be silenced. The forces that edge them from their land, deforestation, climate change, loss of biodiversity, are the same ones that threaten cities and nations alike. What happens to the Hadza today may happen to us all tomorrow, unless we learn to see the value in ancient wisdom and to heed the warnings written in the fate of others. Their survival is a test, not just of their own adaptability, but of our collective willingness to listen and to learn. The Hadza are not a footnote in history, they are a headline, a signal, fire burning in the night. Will we recognize it, or will we only notice when it is gone, and wonder too late what it once meant? Despite the mounting pressures and the narrowing circle of their land, the Hadza remain. Each dawn they rise to greet the sun with the same instincts, the same rituals that have guided them for generations. Their life is not a static artifact, but a living process, one that adapts, bends and sometimes breaks, but never truly disappears. Every word spoken in Hadzane is an act of preservation. Every hunt, every shared meal, every lesson passed from elder to child weaves another thread into the tapestry of survival. This unbroken thread is a gift, not only for the Hadza, but for the whole of humanity. It is a reminder that there is more than one way to live, more than one way to measure success. The Hadza's legacy is not written in monuments or technology, but in the art of being present, of being together, of depending on the land and each other. In a world obsessed with innovation, we often forget the value of continuity, of carrying forward the best of what came before. The Hadza's survival is not just a matter of biology or culture. It is a triumph of humility, of knowing how to live lightly on the earth, trusting in its cycles and in the bonds of community. This is a kind of wisdom that cannot be bought or manufactured. It must be lived day after day until it becomes as natural as breath. Through their daily acts, the Hadza remind us that our roots run deep. We are not so different, after all, from the ancestors who first learned to follow the tracks of an antelope or coax fire from wood and will. In the end, their story is a living legacy, a thread we can choose to pick up or let slip away. The choice is not only for the Hadza, but for all of us. Will we honor this thread and allow it to strengthen the tapestry of human existence? Or will we let it unravel and lose forever a form of wisdom we may one day desperately need? As we close this journey into the world of the Hadza, we are left not with easy answers, but with questions that linger like embers in the night. What does it mean to be human when the oldest ways of being are pushed to the brink? What do we lose inside ourselves when the last echoes of the first hunters fade into silence? The Hadza remind us that our story did not begin with cities or kings, but with the quiet, patient art of survival, the shared warmth of a fire, and the trust that tomorrow would bring another hunt. Their existence is a whisper from the depths of time, a voice that says not everything that is hidden is meant to be forgotten. If the Hadza disappear, we do not just lose a tribe or a language, but an entire chapter of our own origin story. We lose a living example of how to live with less, how to listen more closely, how to belong to the world rather than to own it. In their rhythm of breath, their laughter at dusk, and their silent prayers to the land, the Hadza offer us a path both ancient and new. Now the choice is ours. We can look away, distracted by the noise of modern life, or we can pause, listen and remember. We can choose to protect what is fragile, to honor what is ancient, and to carry forward the lessons of those who have endured the longest. The Hadza, the last echoes of our first beginnings, wait in the silence for our answer. Their story doesn't end here, but how it continues is a question for all of us. Ancient whisper, not everything that is hidden is meant to be forgotten. Hen Gatrong Quan Giai Tiep Theo. In the next scroll, why did an entire empire fear a single forbidden book?